Good evening and welcome to packs 19 through 21 of the U96. Alright, we're going to be skipping a ton right now and going straight to kit 75, which is our motor. First thing we're going to do is take our wire 75-2 and untangle it. Straighten the wire out. And once straight, plug it right into the motor. Now I can't remember if it's this one. I think it might be this one, but we are going to be labeling it M6. And I believe it's this motor, but you are going to want to make sure that you don't lose this label because later you are going to be removing it in stage 140. For we are going to be extending or replacing the entire wire with a longer one. Alright, and with that on, we are actually done with that stage. On to the next one. Alright, we are now on to number 76. And for this one, we're going to be starting by getting our little wire bit screwed onto our little rack. Alright, just like that. And now that we have that in place, the next thing we're going to need to do is to open this bag and pull out the connector that connects the periscope to the part that we just attached to our rack. And just like that, that is attached. I have to apologize for the voiceover though. I seem to have failed to record my audio. But, alright, with that, the next thing we need to do is take the siding of the tubes that control the periscopes and attach our little sensors that would tell the model that it's reached maximum and minimum height. Alright, those are the wires. They are little blue boxes with little switches on them. Let's untangle the wires. And we will start with the black one with the switch pointed outward. Don't know why I'm... Yep, there we go. Going outward, and both of them are going to be held in place with BP screws. Alright, next thing we're going to need to do is actually start getting ready to assemble the control unit. So first things first, we are going to need to grab the little gear from our tray. And because I've learned the hard way about not greasing gears, I am going to be greasing in all of my gears to make sure that no gear binds, skips, or has any problem spinning to the point that it shears. I've broken a few teeth on my Japanese serial, and now I need to replace one of the gears. But, as you can see, the gear goes down into that half. The tab will, on top of the little rack, will sit in between the aim pointed upwards, and so that it can sit inside the little slot in between our two sensors. Okay. Just shows me greasing the gear. Now, this is going to be kind of tricky doing this because you're going to want to bend that spring up and through that hole, and because of how flexible it is, it will want to fight you a bit. Well, as you can see, I'm having some trouble. Especially trying to make sure that it stays in place. Alright. There we go. Got it in place. Now, the next thing you're going to want to do is attach CP screws to make sure that it stays in place. And in doing so, I actually had the smart idea of using clamps to actually hold it down while attaching the screws. That way, hey, I didn't have it just coming and exploding into pieces on me. Alright, I'll be back once all of them are in place. Alright, they've been put in place. The next thing we're going to be doing is actually starting the control mechanism that turns the periscope left and right. Or actually, no, this is where I put the screws in. Okay, now the screws are in place. Now we work on that part. We're going to want to grab... First, put that to the side. Alright, and now we grab the little tube that supports the periscope and actually put the gear in place that will allow it to spin. And just like last time, I will be greasing the gear. I just want to make sure nothing binds, nothing catches, and nothing breaks on me. Especially with this model, I assume being discontinued if something breaks, it'll be hard to replace. But yeah, once you have that gear in place and greased up, you will be putting it into the first half of the motor mechanism. Alright, it's been greased. It's in place. The next thing we're going to need to do is get our last gear, which I was having some trouble getting out. Grease it up. And put it in place right there. The final step after we're done putting that part in is we actually enclose it using the other half, and to hold it in place, once again, is CP screws. Oops, sorry, I'm just moving my mic closer to me. Like, there we go. Alright, as you can see, it turns, so we don't have to worry about anything catching. And now that we have everything spinning, like I was saying, CP screws are what we need to actually hold in place, and we just need 3 of them in those holes. Alright, now that we have those screws in place, the next step we need to do is actually take the motor that we actually assembled. So no, this is not the one that we have to disassemble the wire. And we have to, but this one we do need to make sure is facing the right way, so make sure your X is in place. If you need to, just give it a slight spin to make sure that all the holes line up. And then we're going to be attaching it using BP screws. Alright, lined up. Let's screw it in. Alright, now that we have it attached, the next step we need to do is fun. We actually... Oh, sorry, I'm actually talking about how you need to use a nice long screwdriver to actually get those screws in. Otherwise, you're not going to have a fun time getting those screws in. But again, back to what I was saying. Oh, actually, I am going to be doing a test here. Let's see if this spins. Alright, it's spinning, and it's spinning the other direction, so both ways work. Okay, now let's get back to the build. So the thing that we're going to need to do next is we're going to actually take the part that we just built and grab the part that we were building earlier in this pack. There it is. And we're actually going to be attaching the two. And to attach them, we use CP screws again. But the first thing we're going to need to do before we do that is grab the periscope, the navigation as they call it in the instructions, and clip it onto the new springs part that we actually put on earlier. And then we slide it up, making sure that the tabs are in the little slots. That's on the side of the part that we just built. And then we attach it using 4 CP screws in each corner of the part. Now, I did have some issues with this not wanting to move up and down, so I did have to make some modifications. will spin, but it just won't. As you can see, it'll go down, but then it'll catch. But after clipping, sanding, and greasing, I now have it working. Alright, and with that, that is it for that stage and for that pack. Now on to 20. Alright, here we are with pack 20, stage 77. We just completed getting that molarization complete. As I was pointing out, I did have some modifications to make. And let's begin testing to show that it's working. And it's working. Alright, just playing around with it there, showing that it's working. I pull it up and that's how it's looking when it spins. Alright, now after all that, we can start the build and begin with stage 77. After I free it, alright, here we are with stage 77, and this one is the one that I was talking about earlier. We will be replacing this wire in 140, but till then, we will begin building it by undoing the wire tie and string up the wire. Alright, now that we have it plugged in place, yes, we just need to label it with the M7. And now this is the one that you're going to want to make sure you don't lose that label, because we will be replacing this wire. But what we're going to be doing next is we are going to be attaching the motor directly to the mechanism right away. And it's going to be held in place using, once again, BP screws. So just make sure it's lined up. Make sure that none of your wires are being in the way. And this was tricky, but with some patience, you can get it. Alright, and now that's in place. The next thing that we're going to need to do is bring back over the sub and actually need to temporarily dry fit the periscope up onto the hull of the ship with the fatter side facing towards the back, while trying to get the motor and cable into that little opening in the listening room. Alright. And now that that's in place, all we need to do is attach it with CP screws and we'll be done with this stage. Alright, now that it's fully attached, we can grab our test board and test the periscope to make sure it's working, and as you can see, it works. Don't know if I test if the spinning still works. Let's see. Yep, I test to make sure that it spins still. Oh, I even test the second periscope, the attack periscope. Alright. Alright, everything seems to be working. And as I was saying, that is everything for Kit 77. We got our aerial or navigation periscope done under 78. Alright, as I'm saying here, there was some stuff I was supposed to work on with engine room details, but I will be skipping that. Sorry, I'm trying to find these instructions really quick because I do not remember where those were. Okay, I think that's actually back in stage 19, or pack 19, but basically all that I'm doing is attaching a brace onto in between the u96 and holding it in place with, I assume, more CP. Alright, now we're on heading back to 78. And this one, we actually begin doing a bit more electronics and a bit more hole. First thing we're going to need to do is actually straighten it out and free the cable and power cable. And thread it onto the side of the sub while fitting it into that hole right there. And to hold it in place, we actually put the connection point between the two keel plates over it with that little notch sitting above it. Now you're supposed to use 4 FM screws. And there we are, 4 FM screws. And now we are done with 78. Now on to 79. Alright, in 79 we just add... Oh, actually no, that's not 79 that I'm doing. That's 80 that I'm working on. I skipped around a bit, I apologize, but we just put another piece of hole on our keel. Alright, The keel is slayed. There are some screws missing. That's because I must have misplaced them. But as the build goes on, they will be filled in. Okay, I couldn't find them apparently, but that is it for stage 20. Or pack 20. Okay, here we are with 21, and the first thing we're going to be doing is actually installing our galley and NCO room. Now this took a while, but eventually you do and can get it clicked in. Alright, once in place, okay, so the next thing you're going to want to do, well, typically you would want to put the clip in the back, which I do actually put on, and then route all the wires through it, and then put the back panel on, but I skipped that. The next thing I do in this stage is I will be putting a magnet into a bracket like I've done in the previous rooms. Just like so. Then I attach the next whole piece, or not whole piece, bracket that goes on the other side of the room, and I attach it using CP screws onto the part that we were just working on. Alright. Yep, it just goes onto the right side of that piece. Alright, we got the CP screws in place. The next thing we need to do is actually attach it to the sub. It goes on the port side over the room that we just worked on. Actually, no, this one actually goes over no, it goes over the room that we just worked on. Alright, just like that. Once we get it on, we attach it with CP screws and FM screws on the bottom. Next thing we're going to want to do is attach the other side on. And this goes on with CP and FM screws as well. Alright, and with that on, next thing we're going to want to do, or would do, is attach the Y harness into place. But because I skipped a few things due to needing lights, and I believe I also wanted to wait until I got a few replacements part, I did not put that panel on. But next thing I wanted to do would be to attach a CP screw to make sure that the rooms were all together, but I guess I didn't do that as well because, oh actually no I did, and well, after that the rest of the instructions are engine rooms. So that is it for that stage, that is it for that pack. Thank you guys for watching. We worked on the periscope. We got our engine room in place, or galley and NCO quarters in place. And looks like I'm putting the panel on, so there we are. Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully I'll get the next one out shortly. Until then, take care.